So Jason, you talk a lot about data should be flexible. Could you talk about that in terms of like incremental rollouts and how people actually launch dam systems and what they should be looking for when they're implementing something?
Sure. So it's not necessarily that the data needs to be flexible. It means the system needs to be flexible too,
Okay.
right? So there's a great tool that a lot of businesses use, and it's called Agile, right? And so basically, we know that we don't know when we start a project. So we have partial information. Whenever we're starting a project, we know kind of like, I'm going to need a title, I'm going to need a description, and I'm going to need price. That's all I'm going to need ever. And then all of a sudden you realize that, oh, I need box size too, and I need delay, and I need shipping instructions, and I need, and I need whether or not it's pretty on the 1,000 things, right? So we never know what we don't know when we start. Yeah. And so in Agile, which is a development process and a really cool tool, which we adopt everything and everywhere. We agree that we don't know what we don't know at the beginning of the project. And that's really what happens in DAM too, because you start off a project and you're like, well, I know that the company's going to need this. And then the department comes in and says like, but we need to know this other piece of information. So asset management as an industry used to force you to rebuild the database and like reconfigure everything and then re-import everything and then oh my goodness, that we have horror stories of giant companies who wanted to add one field in their implementation and it cost $1.1 million and they had to rewrite it everywhere because everybody had to redefine the fields throughout the process. Okay, when you get in that place, that's a failure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to be able to have a system that says, I'm going to get a bunch of assets and the fields that I'm going to manage are, I don't know, right? That's a really hard statement, right? That's so hard for technologists to handle. So you need to be able to have a product that can flexibly absorb additional fields. And so that's one of the main difficulties to implementing in a DAM, is that implementing a DAM that has 10 fields is pretty simple. I mean, I can do an Excel, copy and paste, I'm good to go, right? Okay, but the problem is, once I start distributing that and I add one field, my world burns down around me, right? So $1.1 million later, you're like, wow, I probably did the wrong thing, and now that everybody's implemented it, I guess I'm down a creek. Yeah. So the other thing that happens is you end up having this great, the Supreme Soviet, right? So you end up like everybody has to tell everything to the Supreme Soviet, and then the whole tree goes up to one person who knows everything about everything. So what you need to have is a system that can absorb data and can be in different formats and different languages and different fields, and then put it in one database without reconfiguration.
Without requiring that your people have a perfect vision of the future.
Exactly. So you start off with 4 fields, and then when somebody comes by and says, oh, I need these 2 fields, you say, okay, great. For your department, add those fields. Nobody else has to see them. And then they'll say, like, well, how much time and energy is it going to take? And you're like, it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
while
where you
we were
need to be.
talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as soon as MediaBeacon sees a field, it configures it on the back end, and it's immediately searchable. And maybe there's one asset in the database that has that field. You don't need to reconfigure anything. And in fact, MediaBeacon has a database to look up fields in the database, because it has to keep a database of fields for the database, which is so cool, right? And that's where we need to be. Otherwise, we have to have one person who knows everything about the whole company, and that person doesn't exist.
Got it. Thanks.